My name's Jeff Johnson. I'm a partner in San Aaron office in the BCI. I've got a client of mine, John Kot, owner of Kot Automotive Group out of Kelowna. A little background on John. He started in the car business when you were 18 in Weyburn, Saskatchewan, selling cars and running a family.
What's that?
I said co-riders.
Co-riders.
Yeah, nobody from Saskatchewan isn't a Riders fan anymore. He told me that too. Started selling cars, but also kept farming the whole time. So we'd sell cars all day long, go back to the farm, plant the fields, harvest the fields with his wife. Decided that he wasn't good at farming and was good at selling cars, so got into the car business. Worked his way up in sales to a VP at Auto Canada. Then decided in 2011 I need to own my own dealership. Got an opportunity in Kelowna, bought the Hyundai dealership there. So 2011, bought it in December 2011. Since then, he's now at 11 dealerships throughout BC, in the Okanagan, on the island, and down in the Lower Mainland. What impresses me about John is that you don't see too many people start in this business with nothing and build in such a short period of time. It's a fairly mature business. He brings a family-first approach to what he does. His wife is heavily involved in the business with him. His children are heavily involved in the business with him. He is probably the most hands-on operator I know, and because of that is very successful at what he does. I'm going to let him tell a little bit of his story too. John and I met 5 years ago. I was doing his partner in Kia, that store, and John was looking for another accountant, so he phoned us up and said, "Hey, come meet with me." I sat with him and his wife in his old Kelowna Hyundai building, and we had a chat for about an hour. I left there, and we ended up winning the work, but he can tell you why we won the work. He can tell you kind of what he looks for in a relationship, and he can probably tell you a little bit more about himself than what I just did.
Yeah, anyway, thank you for allowing me to come and inviting me. So it's been a good 5 years. We had lots of growth during that 5 years. So when we changed professional services accounting, we really wanted to focus on strategic planning, and obviously it's a family business, and we're trying to make it a generational business over the next, my grandkids, my kids, and so we really wanted someone that we trust and that can help us, through those layers that come with that, whether it's estate planning or tax thing or whatever. So I really wanted someone that I can trust and respect, and Jeff was able to win the business. We've had lots of challenges sometimes on things, and he's always been able to be responsive. That was one thing that I said, right. Some might say sometimes I'm demanding, so I do want my partner to be able to get back to me quickly, and that was something that Jeff's been able to do, and kind of go from there. So it's been good, Jeff.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I took away when I first met John was his biggest frustration was with his accountant was he doesn't bring anything more to the table than his compliance work and his financial statements. And that really resonated with me, and I've kind of built on that over the years that we worked together to not just bring, that's price entry, financial statements and tax return. The next level is everything else that we bring, and that's what I want to bring to this relationship. And that's what I took away from a meeting I had with John the first time I met him, and it tied right into my philosophy on how I want to deal with my clients.
Yeah, I mean, the balance sheets are always easy, but with our growth, we haven't had a CFO. We still don't have a CFO. Jeff's helping me find one right now, but and that's the trust we have. But when you don't have a CFO, when you grow as fast as we did, I need strategic, strategic thinking, strategic planning, someone to bounce things off of, all different types of stuff. So that was something, because I'm basically the CFO right now in my business. Now we realize we need someone else to help me, but at the time we were just trying to get as much done as we can. So you were kind of in that role a little bit with me, that giving me that CFO type of advice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, John, we're going to get into questions. So
Sure.
We got a couple questions, 3 or 4, then we'll take some questions from the audience. We've been working together for a number of years. During that time, we've collaborated on lots of important projects for you. Reflecting first on your personal experience and second on the organization's, what shifts have you noticed in how BDO is showing up compared to your other accountants?
Well, I mean, my business is a little bit complicated because it's also got the family dynamic, right? So, you know, my wife and I needed someone with Jeff and a partnership there that can kind of separate everything. So we have, you know, what's best for the business and then what's best, you know, for the family. And then we got to kind of dissect, you know, because I'm still a dad, but how's that going to work for my kids and how should we manage that? And so we even to the point where, you know, I've asked Jeff to come in and we do a family meeting where he facilitates it and then they can ask him questions on, you know, the business part of, without them hearing it from their dad saying, hey, this is how it's going to work and this is the money and this is what you're getting paid this way. But he's able to bring it in and probably relieve some of that, you know, because my kids are in the 30s, but kind of relieve, you know, there's wives involved. So there was that aspect that we wanted someone that we trusted and that could communicate really well with the family as well. Because that's, you know, we, you know, what do? We've set up a family trust. We've set up some estate planning. We've set up, you know, different layers in the business. My kids have bought in, so we need some tax breaks on that. We've done a lot in the last 5 years,
Yeah.
right? With my kids buying in some shares, the family trust, and a lot of tax sort of saving type stuff too, right?
Yeah, and I think you've done a really great job of like separating, you know, the family aspect and the business aspect. And so it makes it easy to go into those meetings and have those conversations because we can talk about the business side and then the family side, you know, you guys meet for dinner after and you know, they've got really good boundaries. So I'm super impressed with that. It makes it easy to do that.
Thank you.
When you think about the most trusted advisors you work with, what are the qualities you look for that play a role in earning and keeping your trust?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I want someone responsive. Like I'll give an example. You know, CRA is going after auto dealerships right now. It's sort of been that way the last year or two. So there's been lots of audits and lots of them coming at us for different things. So we got audited at one dealership for a PST audit because there was some reserves close to our dealership and we were doing lots of you know, tax exempt purchases. And the bill was $540,000. They came in and said, you owe us $500,000 based on 5 years, and it was a share purchase. We had just bought the store the year before, so but they didn't care. They were going back 5 years, right? So that was a little bit of an anxiety type of situation where I needed Jeff to be responsive. He was pretty good. He said, hey, listen, I have an expert that comes to that, and that was Darren Taylor. You know, we'll get through this, we'll fix it. So we set up a call with Darren, and then I think we ended up getting that down. You know, we were missing lots of paperwork, but Darren was able to deal with the person, the CRA person immediately himself, and then be able to, you know, through a course of 3 or 4 months, get it down to, you know, 35,000 from 500. So those are just things where it's like, you know, we want that business partnership to be like, hey, if there's a problem, like, you know, some strategic thinking, some strategic planning, and then put action plans in place. And I thought that was one where you guys definitely earned your keep, right?
Yeah, and again, I think I said in that breakout or the main stage, you don't have to have all the answers. You need to know the people that can get the answers. So I think that's what John expects me to do is bring in the right expertise to the relationship.
And then like, you know, and sometimes I've had to give you constructive way of saying.
I've had to give John some constructive feedback.
But we have that relationship where transparency is like, Jeff, we need more communication and even trying to challenge him on some of his secondary, you know, his right-hand people or whatever that are handling my controllers and handling my accounts. I said, hey, I don't think the communication level's up from them with my controllers. So you and I shouldn't always have to figure things out. They should be able to, you know, and so with your guy there, Matt, I thought he's really improved since we've given him some feedback. Like, we need him calling the controller, we need him explaining why we're doing this, we need the controllers, because I have junior controllers as well, so it's kind of like, you know, we want to be able to get some of that stuff better, and I thought there's been lots of improvement from the secondary people that are involved on both sides,
Totally
just based on saying, hey, we got to communicate better, right? So. Yeah, my sort of model on how I get things done, right? Is I have a catch and release. So if someone's coming at me, like I don't wait. I need to like off it to someone, whether it's my own employees or my services or whatever. And so Jeff, you understood that right away. Like if there's something that happened where that's an audit or something else, like I'm a guy that's okay, this is happening now. I need to like give it to someone to handle in the next 5 minutes or the next hour or whatever. You've always been able to like take that call or, you know, reply to an email and say, okay, you know what, let's set up a meeting or whatever, right? So that's been important to me as a client to be able to, you know, have that responsiveness, no matter what it is, whether even if it's something small, like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, like we went golfing last week, John and I, and the one piece I took away was that piece is that I'm like, how do you do this? How do you run? Like he's hands on. How do you run this business? It was effectively Jeff. He's like, Jeff, you know what? I deal with whatever pops into my thing right away, and I move it on. And I see it now, and I see it even more after you said that. And it's such I think a huge factor in your success of being able to delegate that out and for your time off to work on.
My wife tells me I'm a professional delegator.
It's right. Is there anything that you would look to change in our relationship that you know we could improve on?
Like I said, constantly involving on the communications and what that means, you know, with the secondary people and you know, just we've grown so fast and so quick. So sometimes, you know, we're moving pretty fast, and, you know, so I think the more frequent meetings, the more, you know, the more talks, the more conversations we have, it's better. And so we've kind of tried to make those more consistent monthly and stuff like that. So we'll have a monthly meeting sort of on the pulse of what's happening, and he'll ask me what he can do to help, and vice versa. I'll say, hey, you know, can Matthew do this or whatever, and it's worked out well, right? So
yeah, I think I think it does work well. I mean, even at lunch today, we were talking about how do you make $500 more per car?
Yeah.
You know, like how do we do that? How do we find a way to do that? Because you sell 6,000 cars a year, that adds up in a hurry.
Yeah, the little things like you know, cash management and paying off a loan recently. You know, it was a prime example. I said, hey, we got this much cash in the bank. You know, should we pay off the Woodgrove goodwill? That dealership acquisition from 2.5 years ago. Can you do the numbers for me based on, you know, do we have enough cash flow, you know, with the manufacturers? Can you do a sensitivity? You did that, you came back, yeah, we can do it. We kind of moved money around, and then it happened really quickly, right? So
yeah, it worked out well. I mean, I think I said right away, like, you know, be proud of paying off something like that in 2.5 years. Not many dealers are doing that right now. Well, we've talked about this. I'm gonna skip that one. Looking ahead at your business or the auto industry, where do you see new opportunities for, you know, us to work together?
Yeah, I think it's coming. It's a lot about data now, right? So it's about AI and all that type of stuff. So we're finding technologies advancing really rapidly. You know, whether it's customer experience data or whatever. Marketing, all that type of stuff. So just looking at improvements on how, you know, maybe you guys with AI can help us, you know, whether it's save expenses or increase profits or become more efficient. That's probably going to be something we're going to look at. You know, what are we doing that's not efficient? And I think technology kind of comes into play a little bit right now because it is moving pretty fast, right?
Where do you see AI going in the car business?
It's pretty much everything. I think it's going to be, you know, there's AI generated follow-up calls. There's all kinds of stuff. You know, I have, you know, 50 customers that bought a certain vehicle 2 years ago. You know, help me communicate with them, and it does everything for you, right? So it can be pretty advanced right now. So my problem is that there's like 100 different vendors coming at me. You know, every month, right? So it's trying to find the right ones for your business, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah. Technology's changing just daily. So
yeah.
Well, I got a guy in the room named Bill that can help you with that. As consumer preferences shift, John, in your business, how are you balancing brand loyalty with price sensitivity and like that digital, you know, experience or expectation that everybody has?
We're pretty lucky. We have a pretty diverse brands, so we've got some really good ones with Hyundai and Kia, and then we've got the challenging one, which is Stellantis and Nissan right now because of tariffs and where cars are getting built and stuff like that. So, for instance, Stellantis, all the cars are coming out of Mexico, and so only certain ones can come out of there. And then Nissan, they took away a lot of car lines, so we're dealing with those challenges where we've had to pivot and become more better at used and making sure that we're very tight on our service operations and retention of customers in our service departments and that type of stuff. So yeah, we can't rely on the new cars anymore. We have to really make sure our business is more well-rounded in the other departments. It used to be, well, if you sold enough new cars, everything took care of itself, but that's not the way the auto industry is anymore. You have to be really good at all the other departments. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think how do you see yourself changing that strategy internally in the Kot Group?
Lots of strategic planning, lots of process on the initiatives, making sure that we're focusing on best practices, right? That we already know. It's not like a lot of these best practices are like, wow, that's just amazing. That's something I've never seen before. It's now just executing things a lot better, right? So.
Now, everyone's going to think I had this question from earlier today, but I did. But brand is important to you.
Yeah.
You got your OEM brand, but you got the Kot Automotive Group brand.
Yeah.
Tell me why that's important to you and to what you do.
Well, it's still a customer business, right? So it's still retaining customers and having a good reputation, whether it's from the OEMs or customers. So we feel we've our brand and the Kot family and the Kot Auto Group. We want to be well reputable as far as in the Okanagan. I guess we've always tried to be their first or second choice, one of my brands, right? So we try and make sure through our teachings with our management and my own kids, it's like if there's a problem, it's all about resolving quick within the first 2 hours and how you recover if you make a mistake. And we just really try and live by that. So we're not always going to be perfect, but if you can recover quick in any problem, then usually it works out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You know what? We're going to open it up to questions from the floor. Does anyone have a question for John or I on kind of what we talked about today? Now, I've got a lot of questions I can ask him.
I got a question just around AI. It's for Jeff and John. We've been doing a lot of training internally using AI. How do you think we can use AI to make John's experience better? And John, how do you think we can use AI in that to make your experience better for you?
It's learning it, right? It's learning what it can do, right? So I think right now we don't know what everything it can do for us. So having experts that tell us, hey, this is what it can do for you, and this is how it can apply to your business, and this is where it can save you money. So those are things from you guys that a business operator is going to be like, okay, that makes sense, because we're hearing all kinds of things on how it can create business and create new opportunities or create more leads or whatever. But there's also the back end. Okay, well, how does this apply into all the efficiencies, right? So I think that's going to be interesting to see where we can apply it, right, and how it can help us, on whether it's expense control, whether it's finding out the right vendors that we use. We have hundreds of vendors that we spend money with. Which ones are or just analyzing data, because we're not car guys are good at selling. We're not good at analyzing data. That's where you guys come in, right? So.
Yeah.
That's getting experts that can help with AI. I think is like even my own son. I have a 16-year-old too. Just to let you know what I think of AI. My 16-year-old son, and he's in grade 11. He said, "Dad, I want to be part of the business. We got Brandon doing this. We got Jordan doing this. We got my son-in-law is doing this. Connor's doing this. Where am I going to fit in the business?" And I said, "You know what? We're gonna send you the technology, that deals with the car business, and we need you to be an expert." And he was like, "I think, yeah, I could do that." And, he's gonna be that component in my company because that's the future, right? So,
I've been talking to JK about boot camp, AI boot camp, like, hey, we're doing that internally right now, maybe that's something we can bring to your group just to sort of get a stronger understanding what AI can bring to the organization and how to use it effectively, because, as we go through it, we learn lots, and I think it would be applicable to lots of things like we chatted about.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's a great question, Clark. Bill, yeah.
Yeah, I think the really important thing we're all partners here, and I think there's a misconception in terms of driving AI value into our client base. We're not selling AI. I think a lot of people think that our answer is to try as partners that aren't very technically savvy to try to sell AI. Our profession is based on advice around money and transactions, and AI is really just a judgment. There's advice in a very noisy world. As you know, you've got lots of vendors coming to you. There's a lot of different technologies. Where you can rely on BDO is that we've researched. We're using the technologies as call it customer zero.
Yeah.
And so we have a better idea in terms of how should you go about understanding how to be a better buyer of these technologies. Whether you go with BDO or anyone else for specific use cases, reality is that we have to provide better value in terms of advice, and that's what you should expect.
Yeah, I think you said it well. I mean, AI is a tool, right? So, I mean, I just, I guess when I look from vendors or partners or whatever, it's like, I want an expert to come and give me expert advice. So if you're gonna give me expert advice on AI and how it can help my business, then I'm gonna listen, right? So.
Good question, Ben.
Thank you. I seem to get the mic. I feel like Lady Gaga. So, quick question. I want to take it back 5 years when you first met. What was the pivotal moment of you deciding, okay, you're leaving your old firm, working with Jeff from BDO, that this is the guy you want to work with, right? Because you keep talking now that you're still learning about each other, you're building that trust, you're building a relationship, but back to day one, what was that sort of, or was it, I'm going to just take a crap shot at this? And the other question is, did you actually end up selling him a car from that first meeting?
It kind of worked this way. My previous accounting was Grant Thornton, and they were out in Alberta because I came from Alberta. And so when I had bought one dealership, I was using them, and they helped me buy my first dealership. And so I think I was a little bit loyal to them just based on that. And then, as we grew, it just didn't seem like it was, a good thing to have a guy in Alberta, and it's like a long-term relation or long-distance relationship. It didn't feel that is what it should. So, Winford, who had owned the Kia store, I knew that they had BDO, and he was really happy. So when I ended up buying Winford, he had mentioned Jeff and the guys, and so then I just started vetting people. So I had 3 or 4 different firms and people that we had interviewed, and we just felt more comfortable. And my wife is sometimes with people that, you guys will laugh at this, but whether it's my executive assistant that I needed to hire or someone that I'm going to be dealing with a lot, she does the sniff test, and so she's like, I think Jeff will get you out of all the people. I think your personality and his will drive the best. And the same when I was getting an executive assistant who's been with me 7 years, but when we interviewed her, it was the same thing. Like, I might have picked someone else, but Trina's like, no, she's the only one that's going to be able to deal with.
What do you mean?
Deal with your crap. No, I meant on the executive assistant. But so and it was based on a little bit of that on when we first hired him. I told him, like, hey, these are things that are important to me: responsiveness, strategic planning. I want to build this generational business. And these are some ideas I have. Walk me through on how you see that play out, from your point of view. And then he said the right thing. So I don't know if that answers your question or not. But.
I think it also helped that I have industry experience.
Right, that was important to me. Yeah.
Yeah, so like having clients in the industry was important to you amongst those other things, because that's the one thing you did tell me that you liked.
No, I did want an expert advisor on the auto industry, right? So.
Trying to formulate my question in my head, so I'm Julian Walsh from St. John's, Newfoundland. So we just onboarded a new car dealership client. So everything you're saying is very relevant and
Nice.
to me. So I'm in tax, and we've got Matthew Galway, who's BSO, and we're learning. We have very successful year one bread and butter financial statements and tax returns, and now we're trying to build on that relationship. The timing of the move when they kind of moved to BDO, they just hired a CFO. They never had one before, so it's very similar. So I'm trying to think of the question I want to ask, but from when you are successful in hiring that CFO, how do you envision the relationship evolving and changing within BDO and you as the owner? Because I'm trying to work with my relationship with CFO and top of house family-run businesses.
All right. I'm probably too reliant on Jeff right now than I should be for my business. You know what I mean? So I think it's important that I have an in-house person that is going to be able to help with that, and Jeff can still be involved, but it would, but yeah, I mean, I guess having a good relationship with the CFO, I think, is going to be really important. Just like, with my CFO, I've had Jeff kind of being involved in the interviews, and we have someone that's coming in that's kind of an expert in the auto industry, so that's already doing the job, so that's going to be good. But we're sending him a pretty big snapshot of our business, so that we can get out there and make sure that all it works. But we still want him pretty involved in some of the big things, right? But some of the little things he doesn't need to be involved with as much. And so yeah, I think for you probably gonna want to spend a lot of quality time with him, and obviously there's the ownership and CFO are different, right? Because the ownership might have different needs than what the CFO's job description is. So you're gonna have to kind of break that out, I think.
I still think JK and I will be chatting all the time, and I'll chat to the CFO, but Matt will be involved with the CFO, my senior manager too. Like, we'll work through it. I mean, we're pretty open about communication between John and I, so however we need to make it work, we will. Yeah. It doesn't hurt to just go and play a game of golf with John and just see where things are at, right? Or whatever, just spending time with him.
Yeah, but I think early on, if I look back, I think early on, the communication probably needs to be there more frequent. You know what I mean? Building that up and making sure that you're there for them, right? So from my point of view, when we first started, it was like, I really liked when he was calling me and asking me and talking to me and, saying, hey, how was your week? We didn't even talk. He just, how was your business week? What was your biggest challenge? Like when he was asking those questions, I felt good, right? So it was a good relationship.
Other questions? I go to my phone if you're not here. Oh, Shane.
What's next? Like
What's next for me?
Yeah. What's the
yeah, I mean, we still want to keep growing. Like I said, one of my strategic things is like I've got the 5 grandkids, I've got 4 kids, so like we still want to keep growing organically. How big or how we want to be more strategic in our acquisitions now. So maybe more location focused. So like we have some dealerships on the island, we'll probably try and grow in that area. If the Okanagan comes available, we'll do that. And then, slow organic growth. We paid off some debt, so now we're in a better position. But yeah, I would say we're probably going to add 3 to 4 dealerships over the next 5 to 10 years. And that'll be a good number in that 20 range. We're at 12. We've got big families, so lots of kids to feed when you're thinking about generations. So,
I think I'm a pretty competitive person. This guy's on par, I think, with him wanting to win. And that's where we connect.
He beat me by 1 stroke in the golf game. I'm not sure his accounting was perfect.
You can't score, man. That guy hit my ball in that one hole, remember? It doesn't count.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was
okay.
just curious.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, organic growth. My kids, my two sons, like I said, they're learning the business. They're excited. They want to keep growing. It's an interesting dynamic. Jeff didn't mention it, but him having to help sometimes with this. I have one son that is very frugal, very this guy gets pumped saving $100 on coffee or whatever, right? That's his achievement on the business, and he gets, whenever he can save money or cost savings. The other one's more about taking risks and making money and all that. So it's an interesting dynamic when you have two vice presidents. They're both your sons. They're within a year apart, but kind of molding them together and then having a strategic plan moving out. So I'm really enjoying working with the family right now. So I'm 56. I have the one son in grade 11. Maybe that'll change when he's out of the house and stuff. But we're still pretty active and we're still wanting to keep growing and we're having fun doing it. So that's important. Right?
So you have a perfect sales guy and a
Yeah.
perfect fixed ops guy. That's what you basically said.
Yeah, I have. I would say how you play to your strengths. So for instance, my one son would sign off on every pay plan. There's nothing getting past him. The other son wants to give him signing bonuses. You know what I mean? So we have that dynamic where one son will want to spend, $50,000 on marketing, and the other son will say, no, we can do it on 15. And so then we come in between on what probably we should do. But so it's an interesting dynamic sometimes to hear them both pitch something and then where we end up, right? So.
And I think
Because you can't expense yourself into a profit. So I'm very cautious sometimes. Sometimes this son isn't going to be good for growth. You got to look at that and say, okay, that's good for certain things, but that we're not going to grow our business. And it's sometimes not good for retention of employees or getting new customers and stuff like that. So his approach can be good, but it might not also be the best approach. His approach might be too the other way. So then we got to kind of massage them a bit.
the best part of that is when JK and I walk in there and we're like, hey, look at this. What do you guys think of going after this one? We know Brandon's going to be like, I'm all in, and we know George's going to be like,
It's way too much.
and then he's like, yeah, we can't do it. And we do it, and then in 12 months, George's like, that's a great move. Got my finger, I'm ready to go. It's pretty an interesting dynamic to work with, and you manage it well, and it's fun to be a part of. Any other questions? We got a few more. That says 10 minutes left. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So when you talked about some of the challenges in your business, it
Yeah.
strikes me as a very difficult business to be in. But what keeps you up at night? If you look at the next 5, 10 years?
Yeah, I find if there's audits, whether there's an audit with CRA or there's an audit, warranty audits or any type of, I guess the biggest one. Sometimes you have a bad actor in your business and he does something stupid and there's some type of fraudulent type of, some guy tried to pad his own commission or something and did something stupid and there's a VSA complaint or something like that. Those are where I guess. Like I said, I do lots of catch and release, so I'm not someone that holds on to things. I just look to resolve it. But if I had to pick one thing, it would be more so just if somebody did something that I didn't think was showing good integrity, that would be the biggest one, right? Because it's not short. Whenever you push the envelope, short term might gain, but it's not going to be a long term thing. And so if I really try and make sure my managers know that, make sure my kids know that, we might make more money this one time doing something that's, stretching some way of doing business, but long term, it's not a good option. So those would be the little things that sometimes I would be like, guys, we can't be doing it that way anymore, right? We made a little bit of more money doing it that way, but I don't want to, let's get back to long term thinking. I don't know if that answers your question, but that would be the biggest one.
Losing reputation.
Yeah, just making sure that the team is, being really smart, integrity-wise, long-term, the right way of doing business instead of looking to make money. instead of selling, you know, making 10,000 on a car once, I'd rather sell them 3 cars at $4,000. You know what I mean? So you know, getting people thinking that way, right? So.
Questions, anyone? I mean, you know, the one thing I do know about John, like, his customers take priority. When we were golfing, I think he must have answered about 30, you know, texts from his sales guys dealing with customers. He wants every customer to leave every interaction to be a positive one. And when they're not positive ones, he fixes it. And he's not afraid to fix it, he's not afraid to face that problem. And it's done really well for you. And you get high, you know, ratings on your surveys, everything like that, and it shows in what you do. And I think for everyone in this room, take that to heart. Like, our clients, you know, are a priority. If they have a problem, fix it right away. And that's what we do. If you tell me there's something wrong, we fix it, we talk about it, we fix it, and we move on from it. Neither of us hold grudges in our relationship. We just deal with our problems and we keep moving forward. So, you know, that's the one thing that I noticed in the last, you know, couple of months, is that is the highest of your priorities for the most part, is dealing with your customers and making sure they're, every time they leave there, it's a positive experience.
Yeah, customers and employees are the two things that are really the most valued commodity you have in a business, right? So if I have, you know, on the way here, we had an employee that was with me 6 years that was resigning, and, you know, I wanted to coach the GM on what to say and, you know, how to keep them, and you know, you only get one shot at those, right? So, but yeah.
If you could go back from the beginning of starting this in 2011 to now, what's the one major thing that you would change or have learned that you would like this group to know?
I think the big thing is just like, everything will always pass. Like, even when you are stressed out and you had a bad day, like you know, back in the day, I would probably carry more emotion when I was doing things, where now I don't, right? Just like, you know what, it doesn't matter what it is. We're all gonna be able to work through it. And there's nothing that's too big we're not gonna be able to resolve it. And so as the leader of my company, I need to be the guy that tells my team that, like, okay, we screwed up, let's just fix it, or my kids, or whatever, because back in the day, if I got emotional, then, you know, I might be able to help, but if I'm helping emotionally and kind of creating more of it and getting mad at the person or whatever, it wasn't good leadership. So now I'm trying to be the guy that's like, okay, you know, I'm still going to be upset sometimes when stuff doesn't go down right, but you know, how we resolve it is really the key, right? So I really kind of would say that I've grown in that since I started.
And do you know, your guys, I mean, I've been in all of your dealerships, everybody like buys into the Kot way of doing things. How do you get people to really step up and follow along with the plan, that strategic plan that you have and you develop every year? How do you get them to buy into that and lead them, and then?
Yeah, I mean, not everyone's going to agree with this, but when I do roll out initiatives, I do micromanage them. Any successful person that is going to say, don't micromanage people, it just doesn't really happen if you don't. So, which means I'm in their face, and in a good way, but following them up, making sure it's happening, tracking it, measuring it, going over it multiple times when I'm rolling out new initiatives. I'm not just going to say with a nice email, hey, this is our new plan. You know, come and see me in a month, right? Show me how it's working. Like, I'm right there over and over and over and over and over, like nano managing it at the start. And I expect my GMs, when they're rolling out initiatives, the same way. So, you know, the old school thinking is you can't micromanage people that are not going to develop. If you want stuff to get done, that's what you have to do, right? So that's my philosophy anyway.
Perfect. Works well.
Yeah.
One more question, or we can wrap it up. John, I just want to really thank you for coming up here and spending some time with us.
I enjoy it, and I appreciate BDO as a great partner. You guys have really helped my company and my family. So,
you know, I think you got a ton of insight today, like that, you know, into our relationship, into sort of what you look for as a client, and a really large client actually of our firm. So for people to hear from you, I think it's pretty cool.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.